Many years ago, when I began traveling and speaking with lots and lots and lots and lots of people, I came to this conclusion. All this bad news is good news if you want Jesus to come. If you don't want Jesus to come, this is bad news. Okay? And the only reason a person could not want Jesus to come is because they're scared to death to meet God. All right? I've lived long enough to discover that God wants you and me, loves you and me, is willing to pay every price and any price, including the gift of His only begotten Son, to get us, save us, have us, own us, and get us through this nightmare we call life to the other side of all of this. And folk, we're not far away. We are not far removed from eternity, whatever that means on the other side. Okay? Not far removed. Some years ago now, 30 plus, when the Lord called me to the ministry that we have, this publishing ministry, our witnesses through the printed page to the world, I did not want the job. I don't mind telling you, I've told plenty of people, I did not want the job. You have to act independent of, quotes, the accepted organization or organizations. You're a dead man before you get started. Jesus understood all of this, but Jesus came here to die. See, that was the plan. He knew He was going to die, and He knew how it was going to come about. And He said to His disciples, when I'm gone, you're going to have a job to do. You have a witness to bear. And He said, you need to know this about the end, fellas. You are going to be betrayed by brethren, by kinsmen, and by friends. You are going to be very popular when this time comes. You're going to be the target. You're going to be the bullseye. You're going to be the whipping post. You're going to be whatever. Okay? Who wants that job? I told the Lord I didn't want it. Nevertheless, the Lord uses people who don't want the job. All right? That's the way it works. That's the way it's always worked. And we have had the great privilege of seeing the Lord do things that there's no other explanation. God did it. God did it. When we went into Russia, and I believe, Dale, you were on that trip. When we went into Russia, we were the first Christian, the first Christian organization in the world to enter Russia after it collapsed. All right? We beat everybody there. All the organized denominations, we beat everybody into Russia. And when the time came for us to lay those plans and pray and pray and pray, and we did, someone introduced us to the name of a man by the name of Joe White in Texas, who was the front man for years and years and years for the Billy Graham Crusades. Wherever Billy Graham wanted to go in the world, Joe White went in front and made all the arrangements. So I became acquainted with Mr. Joe White in Texas. Fine gentleman. And I explained to him that we wanted to go into Russia. And yes, And then I began to explain what we wanted to do. And he said, nope, you can't do it. It's not possible. And after several days and weeks and rounds of negotiation, he was no longer Mr. White, he was Joe. And I said, Joe, the Lord has impressed us to do this. Please do everything you can to make these arrangements for us. We want to get here, we want to get there, we want to go there. And then the last team is going to go all the way across Russia to the Pacific Ocean. You can't do it, he said. It's not possible. Everything that the Lord impressed us to do, we did. I mean, to the Pacific. The stories are beyond incredible, okay? We purchased, our little ministry purchased every Russian printed, Russian language Bible in the world at that time. There were none left when we bought them all. Yes. Russia, because of the communist takeover, outlawed Bibles in Russia for 70 years. And when we got there and began handing out Bibles, especially to the old-timers who lived long enough to remember Christianity and that communist heaven on earth, some of these people would fall down on their knees and weep. What are you giving people? What are you giving them? Are you giving them something that has dollar value? You can't put a dollar value on it. You cannot put a value on these kinds of things. Now, I want to talk to you about some books, because these books are powerful, and because they contain information 100 plus years ahead of the events that are going to take place, and because the person who has had a hand directly in writing some of these things said, I saw that many would take the books and the books would go on shelves and go unread. Are you listening? That's human behavior. I mean to read it. I'm going to take it home. I plan to read it, but it goes on the shelf and it goes unread. But, please listen, there is a time coming when these books will be sought after, and they will be taken down, and they will be read. And when this time comes, thousands, yea, millions will trace their decisions and their choices to reading these things. We're sowing seed. Our work, our call is to sow seed, not to harvest. God is in charge of the harvest. The Holy Spirit is in charge of watering that seed, bringing it to fruition. You and I have a calling. We have a work now which we may do. We have a warning now which we may give. But soon, I want to share just a few statements with you. Ere long, there will be such strife and confusion in the cities that those who wish to leave them will not be able. Well, why can't you leave? Because when you come out your door, you are taking your life into your hands, number one. Number two, this you never saw on the news. Katrina, New Orleans. My family was assigned to live in New Orleans for a year and do evangelistic work. I know New Orleans. I know every street, let me tell you. I'm driving in New Orleans and I look up, I look up, and the boat is up there. I went home and I told my wife, we got to get out of this place. All right? We've got to get out of here. I don't know how long they're going to leave me here, but you're born there, you live there, you got a job there, you got family there, and you forget about the water is higher than you are. See? So when Katrina came and the levees were breached, there were thousands upon thousands of poor people. They didn't leave town ahead of time because they didn't have the resources to leave town. Some of them didn't have the brain power to leave town. Some of them didn't even know there was a hurricane coming. Are you listening? Such is the lot of humanity. But now the water is rising, and these people are in water up to their waists and then up to their chests, and they're holding their babies up in the air. And they're pulling their family and anything they can get, bottled water, anything along on some kind of a life raft. And thousands of these people climbed up in New Orleans to the only high ground in New Orleans, which is called the interstate highway system. And they climbed up on the interstate highway system, and in one great mass of walking, marching humanity, they're trying to get out of this place. What you never saw and you never heard and never will hear the straight of is that they marched only a little way and they were met at the parish line by men with guns who said, no further, turn around and go back. You are not coming here. Are you listening? Now, you can say all you want to about the men with the guns. But you know what they know? What they knew? These are locusts on the land. These people are going to come here and they're going to take what we've got and leave us as desperate as they are. And they're going to go to the next field and locusts eat that up, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. This is humanity. This is reality. I mean, you can read, but the secret is to heed. The calamities by land and sea, the unsettled state of society, the alarms of war are portentous. Tony, did you find it?
Yeah, I got
All right, read the headline. Top CIA, breaking news. Top CIA officer says Israel will probably attack Iran in September.
Well,
okay.
Yeah.
Robert Baer tells LAKPFK radio that strike on Tehran likely to happen before vote on Palestinian state, that the Prime Minister wants the U.S. to be involved. The alarms of war are portentous. They forecast approaching events of the greatest magnitude. The agencies of evil are combining their forces and consolidating. They're strengthening for the last great crisis, and great changes are soon to take place in our world. And here's the statement we all know. The final movements will be rapid ones. I'm so glad things are moving in slow motion these days. A great crisis awaits the people of God. A crisis awaits the world. The most momentous struggle of all the ages is just before us. There's an accompanying statement that says, a trouble is often greater in anticipation than in reality. Not so of this crisis. This is the one that is lodged in my memory for decades. You want to talk fire, you want to talk flood, you want to talk earthquake, you want to talk Japan, who do you want to talk about? But this is all we're lacking right now, right here. We're standing on the threshold of the crisis of the ages. In quick succession, the judgments of God will follow one another. Fire, flood, earthquake, war, and bloodshed. We are not to be surprised at this time by events great and decisive, for the angel of mercy cannot remain much longer to shelter the impenitent. We're coming to a crisis, more than any previous time since the world began, that will demand the entire consecration of everyone who names the name of Christ. Christianity and Christians have fallen into great disfavor, if you haven't caught on yet. A storm is arising that will wrench and test the spiritual foundation of everyone to the utmost. Well, I could read for hours. Instead of becoming weak and irresolute, the people of God should be gathering strength and courage for the time of trouble. Most terrible ever witnessed. Why am I putting these things together? Well, that's as far as I need to go with that anyhow. I tried just before the noon recess to explain that we're going to see a series of crises on this planet. The last great crisis, of course, will be Armageddon. And this is war, this is war, this is war. These are things that occur when people are frightened, when people are desperate, when people are trying to stay alive. And so they are willing to go to war if need be. They're willing to steal if need be. They're willing to do anything. Desperate people resort to desperate measures. That's history. That's humanity. We're here. We're right in the middle of this summer of 2011. It's not any one headline. It's not any one part of the system that we're talking about that is collapsing. It's not any one thing that convinces me. It's the totality of the picture. It's the large picture. It's all the pieces together that are collapsing that convince me the system is collapsing. We had a very good friend for years before he passed away, Elder J. Reynolds Hoffman, and he used to talk about the lily pond effect. If you've never heard it, it's real simple. He said, imagine a pond with a lily in it, and it doubles itself every day. 1 lily today, 2 tomorrow, 2 tomorrow, 4 the next day. And so his punchline was always, when the lily pond is half full, how much time do we have left? See? It's moving slowly and gradually, but it gets to that one day and it's all over with, folks. The world has been living in a daydream. We have been printing and spending money that was not real. And it has caught up with us. It's caught up with the whole world. We taught everybody else in the world how to live on credit, and we made junkies out of them because the United States of America, roughly 6 to 8% of the world's population, consumes 80+% of all the goods and services on the planet. All right? This is why the nations of the world hate us. They're envious of us. They're tired of seeing Americans take flying vacations and cruises and all the rest of it while they sit home and sweat boxes. They're tired of it. And so they say, down with America, down with... This is where we are. The whole world is going to laugh at us. They're already laughing at us. We taught them how to depend on us. We're going to buy your stuff through Walmart. Did you see the thing on ABC News recently? They went to some town, I think it was in California anyhow, went down the street. They went to people's houses and, could you please show us one piece of furniture in your house that's made in the USA? Did you see that? It's a good thing they didn't ask them about clothes. All right, look, folks, here we are. We have abundant counsel. Get out of the cities before the crisis. Yes, make some preparation. Yes, learn how to grow something to eat. Yes. We have all of this practical counsel. That has to do with this right here. But we have other counsel that has to do with the Spirit. All right? So let's assume, and I'm just assuming, that you and your family make no effort, no preparation, you've done nothing, and the crisis comes. You are going to be spending the rest of your days trying to survive. Witnessing to other people about the love of God is about as far removed from your mind as, You understand? It's the same principle. If Jesus wanted to preach to the people, he made sure all the sick, hurting people were healed first. Then they could hear the sermon. Right? Right. If you and I, who have a special call, a special commission, a special work appointed us, you will be my witnesses then, Jesus says. Okay? If we're in no position to feed and take care of our families and ourselves, we're not witnessing. If we call that witness, it's the wrong kind. All right? The wrong witness to bear. No. I have to encourage every person, every friend, every family I can, please make some preparation. If you make an effort, you have a right to be on your knees before God and say, Lord, I'm doing all I know how to do. Please help me and my family. And I believe God will answer that prayer. I do. I have no reason to doubt it. But if we do nothing and then, oh Lord, where are you? No. The question was, Adam, where are you? See. No, we need to make the effort. Now, beyond that, what is it that God is asking us to do? I have statements. I could put lots on the screen here. I have a statement that says there is a work. We're talking about missionary activity, witnessing activity. There is a work that is second to none. Well, if it's second to none, then it's number one, right? I mean, two comes after one. There is a work that is second to none. Now, the author of that statement goes on to say that there is a day coming when all lines of work among us will be closed up. If you've never read these things, they're in print. Okay? All lines of work among us will soon be closed up. There is one work that will continue until probation closes. It's the printed page. As long as probation continues, there will be room for. There will be work for. That's the ministry God called me to. I went to college. I went to seminary. I prepared to be a pastor in a church. I was for several years. And God pulled me out of all that schooling and all that preparation and said, now it's time for an education. And had to show me how interested heaven is in getting these books to millions of people. 30 years ago, 28 years ago, we're sending newsletters out. We're launching Mission America. It was Mission America before it was Mission World. Any of you remember those good old days? Mission America. We're going to go to every large city in the U.S. and we're going to stand on the streets and we're going to hand out millions of copies of the great... We did. We went to every large city in the U.S. And you know what? We went to every medium-sized city in the U.S. after that. And then we went to small cities and villages. Millions and millions of books all over this country. Now, I had to wonder, Lord, what in the world is all of this about? I had to wonder because, 10 years go by, and 10 years more go by, and now it's 30 plus years. And you say, Lord, what was that all about? You really want to know what it was all about? Back in those good old days, we went to every major airport in the United States. You want to talk about New York City? You want to talk about LA? You want to talk everything in between? We went to every major airport in the United States. And you know what? We went in with our clothes on. We went in with carts loaded with boxes of books that were sealed. And no one said, what's in the boxes? X-ray this way. No. We went in those airports, and you know what? We just smiled and said to the policeman, the security, we've got a gift for you. We'll give it to you when we come back by. We went out to the gates where flights from all over the world were coming in. And as the people left the planes coming in, welcome to America, we have a gift for you. Now it's time to put people back on the plane. Oh, you need something to read while you're in flight. Are you listening? Don't ask the Lord what that was all about. Just understand that His timing is flawless. His wisdom is incomparable. He knows what can be done. And Jesus said, I'm telling you right now, men, you've got to work, you've got to witness while it is day, because the night comes when what? That's it. That's it. We're not there yet. We are here. We have a crisis in front of us. The whole world is about to swallow, take a breath and hold it and wonder, what does all of this mean? This is our day in the sun. But we need books. We need people. We need prayers. We need wise persons. Now we're going to have this, I believe, turn. It's going to look up, and when it's bad, the churches, you won't even find a pew. Oh Lord, save us. Oh Lord, help us. Oh Lord, turn our nation around. And then when it starts to turn around, It's back to Easter and Christmas and weddings and funerals. Yes or no? Come on, that's humanity. We need to understand. But knowing that there's more to this story, this is our day. This is our hour. Right here. And it scares the bejibbers out of me, I'll tell you right now. Because I don't have any money. I'm talking about serious money. What is our plan? We've done Mission America. We're still conducting Mission World, and we're still sending books every time we've got the books and people say we're ready to get them out wherever they are on the planet. We send them. You give us money, we buy, print, and ship the books. I won't even tell you about books we're shipping right now. Listen, folks, listen. 3 or 4 years ago, I began praying, Lord, this is what you said. It started back in my home, in my kitchen, with me, my wife, and a 5-year-old daughter. We got on our knees in our home, and we said, Lord, show us how to get more books out. Right now, we're passing 47 million. Are you listening? 47 million. That's out of the backwoods of Alabama. No. That's out of heaven. All right? See, if you're praying for God to work out His will, it works. It gets done. So, Lord, show us how to get more books out. Now, we're down to, we have been reduced in the last few years to the non-profit status that we are. Because every non-profit organization in this country is hurting. I mean, without exception. Red Cross, you name it. The giving is down. Why is the giving down? Come on. People are out of work. People are hurting. The giving is down. Okay? And I'm saying, Lord, this is the time when we ought to be printing millions of books. What are we going to do, Lord? Well, when this time comes, you think big, you think larger, and you pray larger. So about 3 years ago, not even 3 years ago, I asked Larry Petty, who's in charge of our mailing program, community mailing and whatever for years. I said, Larry, I want you to talk to our friends in the mail service business. And I want to know, I don't want business addresses, I want to know about residential addresses. All right? I want to know how many residential addresses in Canada and the 50 states. Canada and the 50 states. Residential only. So he called Andy at Dunhill and Associates. And he said, Andy, I need this favor. Give me 2 or 3 days, Larry. Got the message back. There are approximately 103 million residential addresses in the United States and Canada. That's every home. All right? Well, Lord, now I know how much to pray for. Because I need about $1 a book to print, mail, get all of this done. I need $103 million. Lord, that's not much. It's not. All right? If the Lord wants this done, He's going to help us get this done. At the same time, we begin to have calls to the office from ministers and laypersons. They said, several years ago, you published a book called What's Behind the New World Order? Okay? And we did, and then we sold out. And for a few years, we just didn't have the money to reprint. And then all of a sudden, this New World Order business is becoming big talk, and people are saying, you got to get this book back in print. Well, I was the chief editor in putting this book together several years ago. And then I became the chief editor of putting together The Perfect Storm. Now, both of these are condensations of the great controversy. All right? You know the source. And there is some material here that's here and vice versa, but these two are not exactly alike. And so I became impressed that I should sit down and do whatever is necessary to re-edit these 2 volumes into one. With a whole new format. Now, while this is beginning to weigh on my mind and my heart, we're in a meeting out in the Northwest, and there's a very well-dressed business gentleman who appears in the seminar this day, and he's sitting about where Gene is sitting there, and he's taken, everything in intently, all right, through the day. And in the afternoon break, he came up to me and he handed me a business card. Very attractive, very colorful business card, and I discovered why. Because he is a graphic designer. And he has many years' experience in the field, and he is super qualified. And he came to me and he handed me the card, and he said, if I can ever help you, I'm offering my services. All right? I said, sir, I'll take your card. Thank you. Now I'm back. A few weeks down the pike, we have a conversation. I said I'd like to send just a few pages of a production that we have in mind. And I'd like for you to be free to just put a new cover, a new artwork, new anything. Just when you have the time, would you do 2 or 3 pages and send it back and let us have a look? Knockout. I'm talking about professional. You know what I'm saying? There's stuff folks in the jungle do, and there's stuff in the Empire State Building do. This is Empire State Building. And so I said to this gentleman, we don't have any money to pay you for your services, and this could be anywhere from 70 to 90 pages. When you're ready, I'm at your service. Okay? This is where we are. I wish I were ready. I'm 30, 40 pages into it, and it's not easy.
What do you call it?
What's Behind the New World Order? Sometimes I'm tempted to change it to Who's Behind the New World Order, but I'd like to live at least 2 more days.
What do you mean you're 30, 40 pages? You're redoing it?
Oh, I am. I'm editing these 2 publications into one. Okay? And it's going to have a section, Dell, in it. It's going to have a section in it that is set apart from the rest of the book, probably right in the middle. And it's going to give 12 or 13 identifying marks of Antichrist out of the Bible, out of history. Okay? And if you think it's the traditional stuff, it ain't. It's up to date. This will be dynamite, and I will retire and go into hiding. Don't I wish? Don't I wish? Well, I want you to know, and I want anybody out there watching, listening to know, that we are working, because as I get the pages together, Tony Harriman in the office does our desktop work, and then we forward them to the gentleman, and this is a process, all right? I want all of you to know that this is in process. This is in the works. And when this new publication becomes available, it will eclipse these 2, but these 2 are dynamite by them. Either or both of them are dynamite today, right here. We are still able to mail these in community mailings for $1 a piece. Minimum post office requirements, 200 or more at a time. If you check in a minute that you have nothing right now, no money, but I'm interested in mailing to the route where I live or my little hometown or whatever, all you have to do is say, I'm interested. Larry Petty will contact you. There's no cost. There's no obligation. And you simply say, this is my zip code I want or whatever, and he will get the information and phone you back. You got 512 people on that route. That's $512. I don't have that much money. Fine. Go find 2 or 3 friends and together save your money. Save your Kellogg's Corn Flakes box tops, and when you got $512, let's mail it. It's fantastic how many people are doing this. We have people who start out, I just want to mail my route. They're so encouraged and inspired, I want to do the route next to me. They've done the whole town. Now they got friends and they're doing the whole county. All right? In a minute, I'll tell you where we're going. Lord, I need $103 million. I want to mail a book. I want Mr. Postman to carry the books to every door. If the dog bites, he gets bitten. The postman goes to every door every day. The cost to you and me individually of trying to get in the car with a tank of gas and I'm going to go and hand out door to door. First of all, half the doors are not going to be home and the other half are going to say, I'm not interested, thank you. All right? But they all love the postman. This is possible. This is doable. So here's the plan. Lord, what can we do? We are few. We are few. We are poor. We are poor. When Christ commissioned I'm quoting, when Christ commissioned his disciples to go into all the world and preach the gospel, he sent them out 2 by 2, etc. In like manner, Christ expects his disciples today to carry the witness, carry the message. And how are they to do this? With tithes and offerings, with which the ministry is to be paid and the printed page is to be spread throughout the land. I have zero hesitation to say to you, if you're using some of your tithe, some people all of their tithe because they're sold on the publication. If you're using some portion of your tithe, if we can get 1,000 families, please listen, 1,000 families who on a regular monthly basis will just do their part. Just do your part, whatever it is. Then I have calculated that we can print 1 million books every 60 to 90 days. Ooh, the world's not going to last that long. So we've got to speed it up. All right? That's up to God. But we got to do our part. The plan right now is Alaska, please listen, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Nebraska. Those are the first 4 states. Why did we choose them? Several reasons. They have small populations, and we have done very little in these states by way of reaching the populace. All right? It's in the heartland of America, and we're going to work our way down. We're going to get Kansas and Missouri and Oklahoma. We're going to work our way down. All right? And as the funds are there, few or many, as the funds are there, we're going to work our way down. If God opens the doors and the windows, you and I can have some little part. But lots of littles make big. Right? Yes. We need to do what we're going to do. We need to do it now. Give me a moment, please, folk. I want to escape. And commissioning his disciples to go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature, Christ assigned to men the work of spreading the gospel. That's good news. All right? Jesus is coming. Kingdom of heaven's at hand. That's the gospel. But while some go forth to preach, he calls upon others to answer his claims upon them for tithes and offerings, with which to support the ministry and spread the printed truth all over the land. As far as I'm concerned, that's God's plan. That's God's will. Let's get into line and let's get on with it. I want to bring you back to the board and I want to bring you back to timing is everything right here. I believe last time we were in Denver, we talked about the Mayan calendar and some of the interesting things that are going on with regards to the Mayan calendar. For example, it is said to be the most accurate man-made calendar on the planet for, thousands of years. What made the Mayan calendar more accurate than was that little third wheel. It has 3 wheels, geared wheels, and they, as they turn, as they mesh one with another, it told the Mayan elders and astrologers and astronomers where we were in time. But it was the addition of that little third wheel in the Mayan calendar that made it so accurate, so precisely accurate, that the Mayan calendar predicts eclipses of the sun and the moon thousands of years in advance. To the time of day, the time of the day, the place on the planet, the whole business. All right? If you missed it, if you have not heard or read it, that little third wheel represents 5 1/4 days that were added to the calendar, we believe about 702, 701 BC. There was an object in the heavens, a flyby in the heavens, that apparently was massive enough and near enough planet Earth that it ellipsed our orbit. I believe it passed outside us, on the outside of our orbit around the sun. That would have the tendency to ellipse us. I believe when it comes back, and I absolutely believe whatever that object was or is will come back. When it comes back, I believe it's going to pass between us and the sun, which would have the potential for retrograding our orbit and bringing us back and resetting our clock. Why do we need to reset the clock? Well, there are many reasons we need to reset the clock. And boy, I don't want to get in hot water here, but I guess I'm already in hot water. Moses leads the children of Israel out of Egypt sometime between 1440 and 1400 BC as the Exodus, as best we can determine. All right? 1440 to 1400. They leave Egypt, and 90 days, 3 months out into the wilderness, into the desert, God says, come up on the mountain, I have instruction for you. And He gives Moses there the blueprints for the sanctuary. The blueprint was in 2 parts. There was the edifice itself, the tent, and all the furniture, and all the, parts and pieces that went with this sanctuary plan. And then the second part of the blueprint was the times in which you are to come here and I will meet you here. We call those moed, times and seasons. We call them appointed times. We call them feasts or festivals. They were holy convocations, the Bible says. And the children of Israel had very, very, very explicit instruction. No, the 14th day, the 13th won't work, and the 15th won't work. The 14th day of the first month. And you be there. See. Now we learn by reading Scripture and reviewing history, we learn that what God is doing is not, He's not arbitrarily appointing these times. These are natural times. These are times and seasons that have to do with what happened to the position of the earth in relation to the sun, I believe, at the flood. Because Noah comes out from the ark and God says to him, see that rainbow? It's a promise that as long as the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, that's the seasonal changes that take place. These will remain as long as the earth remaineth. Well, what does that mean? Parentheses, in the position it's in. We have every reason in the rock record, in the fossil record, in the historical record to believe that once we had a relationship to the sun that was, our axis was perpendicular to the equator of the sun. What does that mean? It means that the same amount of daylight reaches the poles as reaches the equator. And that's why you can go to the North Pole and the South Pole and get down to the rock record, and there you find fossils of trees and plants and animals and whatever. All right? All of that changed at the flood. 23.5 degrees. We're tilted. Over here, it's summertime in the northern hemisphere. Over here, it's wintertime in the northern hemisphere. The sun's rays hit us obliquely, but it's summertime down south on the other side of the equator. Those are the seasons. And there are really 4 seasons as we move around the sun in a year. There's spring, there's summer, there's fall, and there's winter. Oh yeah, we all know that. No. We don't all know that. We need to understand that the Mayan calendar has predicted 1,000+ years ago that on December 21 of the year we call 2012, something is going to happen overhead. Are you listening? Well, what is December 21? The winter solstice. It's one of those 4. Maybe it's just good luck. Maybe it's just accident. Maybe it's just happenstance. I don't know. I think that some very odd, strange, and maybe amazing things are going on right now.
National Geographic said it's the first time in 25,800 years that all the planets will be lined up directly with the sun.
Yeah. Now, Al Gore says global warming. That's not untrue, in spite of whoever may find disagreement with it. The planet is warming. A few years ago, my wife and her parents and I went to Seattle, kept some appointments in the Northwest, and then we rented a van and we drove to Alaska. Not recommended. I have the little, bumper sticker. I brought it back. I drove the Alcan Highway and survived. Yeah. Truer words were never printed on one's bumper sticker. Anyhow, we spent a couple of weeks to Alaska, and it was a good experience. It was, in spite of the driving. One of the things that we wanted to do, because you read all the tourist stuff and the, things to do while you're here. There was a very famous glacier not too many miles outside of Anchorage, Alaska. And it was a tourist mecca. Everybody went there, and we were not disappointed. We went to see this glacier, which was a giant iceberg. And there's a lake of meltwater right there, and there's a visitor center, and you buy your tickets and you get on the boat and they ride you up there, and you're hoping and praying the next iceberg doesn't fall off on you, kind of a thing. Well, that's only a few years ago, 20 years ago. But that glacier is not there anymore. That tourist attraction is out of business. It's it'd been there for thousands of years. In 20 years, it's gone. It's gone. Well, where did it go? It went to all the places that things go to. Nothingness. Okay? It's gone. We have been several times to Glacier National Park up here in Montana. Oh, what a gorgeous place to go and visit. Going to the Sun Road, the whole thing. Every time we go, we notice that glacier is gone. That glacier is gone. Now Glacier National Park hardly has any glaciers left. Now some, of course, want to blame all of this on you and me and our 5 automobiles parked in every garage. And I'm sure we're hastening things along, hurrying things along with our bad habits. But here's reality. Every planet in our solar system is heating. This is a fact. This is a scientific fact. Somehow you don't read it in the news. Every planet in our solar system is heating. Beyond the heating effect that is observable and measurable of the planets in our solar system, our solar sun, our sun at the center of our system, see, is behaving very oddly. It is burping and it is belching and it is making sunspots out of sync and it is doing all kinds of things. And there are solar flares that can just blow our magnetic shield around this planet away. And because of intense radiation that is beginning to bombard planet Earth in these moments of burping and belching, there are all kinds of creatures that are beginning to either disappear on the planet, salamanders, frogs, and if they're not disappearing, then they're coming out with 5 and 6 and 7, 8 legs. And we started this morning by saying the system is collapsing. It's not just the rock, folk. The whole solar system that we're part of is being affected by something. What is it? The only way you can get every planet in our solar system to increase in temperature, heating, okay, is that the sun has to become hotter, it has to be larger, it has to increase its output of energy. It may be doing a little of that in bits and spurts and whatever, but no, you cannot account for it. But if we are being approached by an object containing mass, having a meaningful mass, if it is approaching our solar system, then there's frictional heating that occurs. And there are many, many, many reasons to believe that we have some object approaching our solar system, our neighborhood. And this object may be called by all kinds of names. The Babylonians called it Nibiru. All kinds of names it's been given. Some astronomers say there's no such object. Some say yes, there is. Right now, the internet is full of talk and gossip about the comet Elenin. You ever heard of Elenin? Well, you need to go home and do a little homework. And comet Elenin is supposedly approaching our solar system, and because it's been behind the sun and approaching the sun, it has not been observable. Some object is said to be approaching planet Earth from the South Pole, and because it has been known for several years this object is approaching Earth from the South Pole, hundreds of millions of dollars have been devoted to building a very large, very expensive, very sensitive telescope at the South Pole. And we have a friend here who knows for a fact that someone from the Denver area was part of constructing and erecting that telescope at the South Pole. And I can assure you that anything approaching this planet from the South Pole, we would never see until it gets, okay? Don't know. I don't know. Is Elenin Planet X? The talk right now, and it's internet gossip and chatter, the talk right now is that it's really a brown dwarf. Well, what's a brown dwarf? Well, stars, like people, come in all different sizes and colors. All right? Our sun is a typical large red sun. But there are blue suns, there are yellow suns, there are red suns, there are brown suns, there are white suns, there are all kinds of suns. It is being talked in lots of circles right now that we are being approached by a brown dwarf. Why would that be significant to you and me? Because 52% of all the suns in a galaxy, a typical galaxy, 52% have companion stars. So there's a 52% chance our sun has a companion star. And some have believed and said so that, well, Jupiter was our companion sun, but it was never struck. It was never kindled. It was a star that never was lit. And aren't we glad, because you and I would not be here. But others have said, no, Jupiter was not the companion star. We have one, and it makes a long period circuit journey to come back into our neighborhood. A brown dwarf would not be seen. It would not be a luminous object in the heavens. It would not be seen until it really began to be in our vicinity. A brown dwarf can be very, 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 very small, but very heavy object. A brown dwarf could come through our solar system and wreak havoc. I mean, havoc. God has said through the prophets that at the time of the end, He's going to change the times and the seasons. And the way you do that is you change the clock overhead, and the way you do that is you scramble what's up there. Yeah. Right there. Now, I believe that possibility exists as early as December 21, 2012. I hope not. But it's very possible. If it should occur, if there should be a flyby in our neighborhood, if it contains sufficient mass and is near enough, perhaps between Earth and Sun, wow. Then earthquakes, off the scale. So did you hear Jesus? And earthquakes in diverse places. Okay? He goes on to say there'll be war, rumors of wars, famine, pestilence, earthquakes, all of these things. And in Luke, we have the addition of, and fearful sights and great signs shall there be in the heavens. All these are the. So what I'm asking you to consider here today, and that's all it is, I'm just asking you to consider this possibility. That the clock may start ticking in a year and a half. It may. We're talking about measured days. I hope not. I pray not. It's very possible that something or nothing will occur December 21 of 2012. For my part, I'm a firm believer in history, and there are too many records around this world down through centuries and millennia of people observing the heavens, and they are able to cut, just a little wedge out of a rock so that on a given day of a given month of a given year, sunlight comes through there and will not come through that little hole in the rock on any other day of any other year. Don't tell me they were all dumb and stupid back there. I'm only asking you to consider the possibility that we may already be on some bumpy road. If you took that date, if you took note of it on the screen this morning, it was September 14 of 2008. And this would be about 3 years. And this would be about 3.5. And together they could make 2,300. Together they could make 6.29 years, which is what occurs every 70 years in the Jubilee cycle. I don't know. But there is an intensity that is seizing this planet. It's described in a simple verse, verse 2 of Daniel chapter 7. The four winds of heaven strove upon the great sea. Waters, the angel says, are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. Have you ever seen such madness on the planet? Anywhere you want to cast your eye, there is insanity. There is unhappiness. There is evil. There is. These things are setting the stage. Fire, flood, and earthquake. Here's the missing ingredient right here. Daniel chapter 8, the ram and the he-goat, and a confrontation with the second higher horn, Persia, Gabriel tells Daniel. But something happened to scramble the clock. And a year became 365 and a quarter days. There's your 5 and a quarter days added to the little wheel to make the calendar accurate again. Now, 100 or so years after this, from about 605 to, 680 something BC, this is 100 years later, there's one Mr. Daniel. And Daniel starts receiving these visions from heaven. And Daniel's head is spinning and he's saying, I don't know what all of this means. And the angel says, but it's not for you to understand. And finally, Daniel is told in no uncertain terms, shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end. And then it will be understood. Then it will have meaning. Well, the only way it can have meaning, because all of the times in Daniel's visions are based on a 360-day calendar. Is it possible we're going to back up 5 and a quarter days? And what do you do in a modern technological age where everybody is so sophisticated and everything is so set in concrete, and you have to change the whole calendar for all the business and all the commerce and all the politics and all the whatever on the planet? Do you think there would be any confusion? Do you think there would be anybody standing in line to take advantage of the confusion? Do you think there would be anybody who would say, well, if we're going to have a new calendar, we just as well make it right? We know which day should be the 7th day of the week. These things are coming, folks. These things are coming. There's more. And here I want to be real careful because I'm going to get shot before sun up or sun down. We have Abraham. We have no biblical evidence that Abraham understood the 10 Commandments as they were given to Moses on the Mount. I didn't say the 10 Commandments didn't exist. I didn't say Abraham wasn't a moral man. I didn't say any of that. So don't jump to conclusions. I said we have no evidence biblically that Abraham kept the Sabbath. There are good reasons to believe that from Abraham to Moses, about 400 years or thereabouts, the children of Israel had lost, how many generations are we talking about? They didn't know who Abraham was. They didn't know who Isaac was. They didn't know who Jacob was. They didn't know all of these wonderful promises God made to their fathers. And Moses comes along and God says, Moses, I'm calling you out of retirement. Get ready. And go into Egypt. I want you to talk to Pharaoh. I want you to talk to my people. These people weren't keeping the Sabbath. These people didn't have a clue. They were making brick in the sun with a whip on their back. But God is setting into motion a plan. And they are not but 90 days out of Egypt, and God calls Moses up into the mountain and says, Moses, I want 2 rock tablets, And God doesn't say, Moses, now you write this down. God writes it down. And He has invested more words in the fourth commandment than the rest of the 10. Listening? Are you? Okay. These people don't even know Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and they sure don't know what the Sabbath is all about. And besides that, who knows when to start counting the week? So God says, I understand. You're in the dark, but here's light. I'm going to make bread fall on the ground 6 days and not let it fall on the seventh. Therefore, you will be able to count, measure, number, and know when the seventh day is. Does that make sense? How long did it last? Come on, come on, come on. How long did it last? When did the manna cease?
When they entered in.
The day after. On the 15th day. What happened on the 14th day? They kept Passover. What did they pass over, guys? The Jordan. I shouldn't do this so early in the day. Here's the Exodus. This will be the first day of the first month unto you. This day shall be the first day of the first month unto you. Who's talking? God. Who's He talking to? Moses. Who's He telling Moses to explain all this? The people. This day shall be the first day of the first month unto you. All right? You listening? On the 10th day of the first month, you are to choose from among the flock, your flock, a lamb or a kid without blemish of the first year. And this you are to sanctify or set apart. You are to remove it from the flock. Have you ever been around a little calf or a little kid that's separated from mama? Do you know what crying is? Is baby crying? Come on. Is baby crying? Is mama crying? Do you want to stop the crying? You would do anything to stop the crying. What's the crying all about? Well, let me ask you this. Who was the lamb that was set apart? Come on. Who's crying? Separation. I've never been separated from you. Who's crying? Lord, have mercy on us. On the 10th day, set apart a lamb. And on the 14th day, you cut his throat. This is Passover. This month is Abib or Nisan. Well, there's a problem here. And here's the problem. You go 6 months, the sun was here and it's now over here. You go 6 months. And God says, here's another divine appointment for you to keep. It's called Rosh Hashanah. Somebody tell me what Rosh Hashanah means.
End of the year.
What?
End of the year. Rosh is...
It's the beginning of a new year. Right? No. I can't buy it. Here was the beginning of a new year. And you can't have another new year in the same year.
Bless your God.
Not in Alabama. No. No. You cannot have 2 new years in 1 year unless it's the 49th year. And the new year is Jubilee. Now I'm looking at you folk. Because you see the children of Israel on this long jaunt to get across the desert and into the promised land. We have to wait till die. And we have a new generation. New genera. A new beginning. And so they crossed Jordan. God dealt with Jericho. Listen to Joshua. Who's Joshua? Jesus, Savior. Listen to him. Now, men, I want the head of every tribe. The man who stands at the head of every tribe. Come here. Get in line right here. The water's about to dry up in front of you in the river. We're going to pass over. Now, men, as you walk into the dry ground of the river, I want every one of you to pick up a rock and take it to the other side. Anybody venture a guess which day of which month they passed over? Way back there, it was a lamb. At the end, it's a rock. Who's the lamb? Who's the rock? See, he's a lamb, but when the end comes, he's the mighty Michael who stands, the prince which stands. Folk, all of this is written down in the book. All of this is there. Who sees it? Who knows it? Who recognizes it? Who understands? See? So are we approaching the last 7 years? The distinct possibility is distinct. Let's put it that way. It is there. The possibility is there that we are about to see heaven shaken. The powers of heaven will be shaken. God's going to reset the clock. Why would he do that? Because all these folks down here wandering around in the desert don't know which day is the Sabbath. Would you like to know? I know you know, but do you know that when the first angel's message goes to every kindred, tongue, nation, and people, and I saw a mighty angel flying in the midst of heaven, shouting, saying with a loud voice, "Fear God, give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come." And what? What follows is verbatim from the 4th commandment. The world doesn't know which day is the Sabbath, and you and I only think we do. The truth of the matter is there's so much confusion on this planet, there's been so much slippage down through history, we do the best we can. But I want to tell you, God's going to do better. And he is going to show the whole world. And he's going to send Moses and Elijah. Who? Come on. Moses is the man of mercy, meek and lowly. Jesus. Who's Elijah? The world's going to know which day is God's day. And just like there was a tree in the garden, there will be a test at the end. Not going to be easy, folks. Not going to be easy. It's going to be very difficult because nothing was against them in the garden. Nothing. It was air conditioned. It ain't going to be air conditioned down here. Jesus said, it shall turn to you for a witness then. Well, what is it? If I keep the Sabbath, does that save me? No. Well, then, why should I be concerned about the Sabbath? Look, I don't know if you've ever had anything stolen from you or not. Yeah. You come home or you come back to the automobile or, I mean, we had an automobile taken 5 minutes after we went in my mother's house. Just come back and the car's gone. Honey, did you park it somewhere else? No. The car's gone. We just put all kinds of things, including a basket of dirty clothes, in the trunk. It was used in a robbery less than 2 miles away. We did get the dirty clothes back. If you have ever been violated, if you have ever had something that's yours, that's mine, that's ours. It's not yours. You have no right to take it. The first 4 commandments define for the whole intelligent universe what belongs to God. And the last 6 commandments define what belongs to you and me. And there is peace in the valley as long as everybody leaves God's stuff alone and leaves the neighbor's stuff alone. Now, there's something about the Sabbath that I don't understand yet. I never have, in spite of all my years of reading and trying to sort it out. There's something about the Sabbath that God says, don't touch it. Somewhere we've heard those words before. What he's saying is, it's my property. It does not belong to you. Not in the same manner or way it belongs to me. Now, the world doesn't know this. The world doesn't understand what we're talking about here. But they will. And God will see to it that they do. By the way, that's all predicted in the book of Isaiah, that there will be a restoring of the old paths. See? You and I are about to see and experience things on this planet never even dreamed of. And we're that close. We're that close. It's coming. There are things about it that absolutely thrill my soul, and there are things about it that, ooh. Well, what I'm asking you to consider here, and that's what we're talking about. Consider the possibility here that we may be in a year, this 2011, we may be in a year in which there is a very fateful turn of events. We may be a mere calendar year away from something that's going to start shifting things around in the sky. That's all the Mayan calendar was able to offer. That there's going to be a change in the heavens. And that it will set the stage for a new beginning. All right? Now, whether it happens as Brother Charles predicts in 2011 and 2012, etc., really doesn't matter. Because what I think and what I believe is not salvation for me or for you. I'm looking, I'm wondering, I'm even guessing. But strange things are going on with the sun, with the planets, with nations, with people, with churches, with all kinds. Everywhere I look, strange things are going on. Very different things. And it's very difficult for me to describe for you what I feel inside when I go and look out my window and I have one pair of indigo buntings. It grips me. It just says to me, it's almost over. What we're going to do here, folk, this is my take on it, is we're going to see an economic collapse right here. We're going to see a return to some degree of prosperity, and then this flyby in the heavens, this whatever it is, that is going to shake this rock we're on, and I believe the words of Jesus will come to pass. Every stone you're looking at, men, is going to come down, not one left standing atop another. There's still hundreds of those stones standing atop one another. I believe the Dome of the Rock is coming down, and by sunup, I believe every Muslim with his AK-47 is marching. I believe we're going to have a counterfeit Armageddon right here, and my personal take is that Israel is going to do the only thing she can do. She's going to nuke Damascus. Now, if you'll go back and read your Bible and read it as it reads, in context, the disciples asked Jesus, what about the time of the end and how can we know? And Jesus begins describing this, and he gets to a certain point in the conversation and he says, and this people, you will be hated of all nations. And you'll be led away. Israel is going to do something that the rest of the world is going to say, oh. And that's how the nations become the owners of, the deed holders of Jerusalem and the Temple Mount. We may be that close. And you want trouble with a capital T? There it is right there. I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling in the hands of the nations, God says. It's going to happen.